Hi, I'm Dawn Montefusco, life coach for writers and creatives, and this is Write Your True Story, how to use your story to grow your business, inspire millions, and leave a legacy. And today I have quite an extraordinary woman. Her name is Sunny Dawn Johnston. She's a world-renowned inspirational speaker, spiritual teacher, and psychic medium. She's the author of 20 books, including her 2 flagship bestsellers, Invoking the Archangels and The Love Never Ends, which have become the cornerstones for many of her keynote topics, such as intuition, mediumship, and the angelic realm. Sunny helps people connect with their heart and release the things that hold them back from being their greatest version of themselves. Combining the unconditional love of a mother and the tell it like it is honesty of a best friend, Sunny helps people move into a higher vibration of living and a higher vibration of being. Using her spiritual and intuitive gifts, she shines a light on the areas of lack, fear, insecurities, and sometimes calls you out on your bullshit. She feels strongly that at the heart of these issues is a lack of self-love. By reflecting the true nature of her clients back to them, which is love, they can experience and then allow in all that unconditional love and begin to heal themselves. Sunny's latest endeavor, SDJ Productions, has expanded her beyond writing and speaking events and into publishing and producing. Her latest projects include 2 multi-author compilations, 365 Days of Angel Prayers, and 111 Morning Meditations. Wow, that felt good to read. Sunny, so tell us in your own words a little bit more about what you do and any projects you're working on.
Oh my goodness, so that was a lot right there. Projects I'm working on. I've always got a lot of projects I'm working on. I just finished creating a new book called The Write and Burn Journal, which is something that I'm a real believer in getting emotion and energy out of your body and then burning it and transmuting it. So that's been on my list to do for, 20 years. I've been thinking about it, and it just finally, I had enough space to go, okay, it's time. So that's kind of my latest project. My passion right now, where I've been putting a lot of my energy, is in a new online television show called Off the Cuff with SDJ.
Oh, fun.
And that's pretty exciting, and it's still in the works, and I'm figuring it all out, and it's collating. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know the title.
Well, so I'm going to jump into the first question, because one of the things I'm just going to say is I don't know if I've ever read an about page. I've read a lot of them as well written and as extensive, vulnerable, like really vulnerable, and authentic as yours.
So, I think that for someone who is teaching in, writers are teaching and speakers are teaching. And I think that oftentimes, or maybe the way that people resonate the most is when we teach from experience. We don't teach what we've read. We don't teach what we perceive to be happening, but we teach based on our own life and our own journey. So when I wrote my first book, Invoking the Archangels, which came out 6 years ago, I wrote what happened. I wrote my life story, and I wrote so many parts of my growing and expanding and things like that. And it didn't even occur to me at all that it was vulnerable. I didn't even realize that until I went into my first book signing, and people had already read it, and they go, "Oh my God, I can't believe how vulnerable you were. How did that feel?" I'm like, what did I write? And so that I even said to my musician, I said, did I write something I shouldn't? Because I was like nervous then, like, shit, what came out? And so I guess for me, in all of my teaching, what I want the most is to be of service to humanity. And I feel like I've had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I've learned a lot, and I've had a lot of life experience. And so I feel like if I can help people or support people, or maybe save them some time, like this doesn't work so good, bumping your head against the wall for 25 years, it doesn't work so good, maybe just listen to your intuition instead.
Nice.
that could help them. And so I don't feel like it's vulnerability. I just feel, I mean, yes, it is, but I guess I just feel like it's just me being me.
Mm-hmm.
And transparency, I think, is the key to teaching and helping others.
No, I find that that was a great answer. And well, here's my question. Do you think that people, if they were more in touch with their intuitions, that they would naturally be a little more vulnerable because that's the avenue to connection?
Absolutely. I don't know how you can be tapped in and connected here spiritually and not be more open here, because it would be shutting off part of the valve, because the idea is the energy continues to flow, right? And so if I shut off the part where I'm not sharing, if I shut off the part where I'm not receiving, then I don't receive this way, I don't receive this way. So it's just, for me, it's necessity.
Well, from what I'm seeing, it's you're naturally suited for everything you do, right? And so you really are. I mean, the way your path has gone, and then it's almost like, it's eerie. I think everyone needs to read you and see what you're up to. But this idea about authenticity that I'm learning from all these interviews I'm doing is, we live in a world right now where we're so connected energetically as well as internetly.
Yeah, internetly.
That people can actually, even people who don't think they're in touch with their intuitions, or we're all connected, they are, but they don't know they are, or they can be more. They can actually feel inauthenticity. They can feel the difference between the wall and the opening.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is about that creates trust? People tend to trust people like you who are genuinely authentic about themselves. Like, trust is right away.
Yeah. I guess there's probably a couple of points. The first thing is, I know in my own life, I'm a trusting person. I actually trust first. Nice. Because that's who I am. If I am love and I'm an expression of love in this world, then my responsibility is to be that love. And the only way I can be that love is to be trusting of the person in front of me. And the only time that I wouldn't be trusting of someone is if they then teach me not to be. But everyone gets equal opportunity. And so I guess in then offering that to others, the more open I am, the more people are relatable. Mm-hmm. And when you are relatable to someone, when you share something that is painful, that might be considered judgmental or critical, or people might have ideas about what that might mean, it opens a door that says, oh yeah, she gets me. She gets it. So it's kind of like, how many of us want to go to a trainer if they've never worked out? How many of us want to get a divorce attorney if they haven't walked through a divorce? They don't know what it feels like. And I'm not saying every divorce attorney should have a divorce. Yes, there's information that can be valuable, but when we're talking about life coaches, and we're talking about counselors, and we're talking about spiritual teachers and things like that, I would want people that know and relate to who I am and where I've been.
Yes. Excellent. What advice would you give to someone who is still scared but they really want to share their authenticity and their story? And especially in writing, people tend to get stuck. Like, they'll talk about it, but then when it comes to like putting it out there, any tips for the person who's not as bold?
Fake it.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. I guess, what I would say is that I just had this conversation with a client today, and I had the same conversation yesterday. And that was, if I have, this is me, but if I have a fear, doesn't really matter what it is, that gives me insight. That says this is an area that is holding you back from something, because you have power that is stuck. And so anytime I have a fear, so if you're saying, okay, somebody's afraid to be vulnerable, step into it. If I'm afraid of starting a new project, I'm going to step into it. Now, I might need education, I might need support, I might need help, I might need, all kinds of things around me. but stepping into it, because otherwise that experience, it starts to grow, and it starts to grow around us. And then when it grows around us, now that fear's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And now not only can we not write about it, but now we can't talk about it either. And then we don't want people to know, and then we're hiding, and it just becomes this big thing. So to me, anytime there's two things that I know. When I start to feel that fear, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm doing next. Or when I say, I don't want. Anytime I say, I don't want, it doesn't matter what it is. I didn't want to be a psychic medium. I didn't want to do this work for a living. I didn't want to be a writer. Every single freaking thing I do in my life, I didn't want to do. So, and why? Why did I not want to do it? Because I didn't think that I could, because I didn't feel like I had the talent, because I was afraid of judgment, because I didn't know where I would fit, because I didn't know how was most of it. And when I got over myself, then things expanded.
Yes. For people that don't know your story, you actually had a pretty rough go at it, from what I've read. So teenager with, like, people would not, I think that's what makes you relatable to some degree. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, she was a pregnant teenager who didn't know how she was going to live, like basic needs.
Yeah.
Your almost husband was out, he was sort of neglectful, to say the least.
Yep.
And so can you tell us a little bit about how you made that journey from, that world to trusting yourself and then creating the business that you love?
I think, I sure as hell muddled my way through it. I didn't have a guidebook. That's why I talk so much and help so many people, and I'm always sharing, because I didn't have a guidebook, and I didn't have somebody to say, hey, there's a whole easier way over here, or in here, or and so yes, those things are true. I quit school when I was 15 years old. I was pregnant at 18. I was in a relationship with an alcoholic. I was on food stamps and welfare. And I think part of what you were getting at, and you didn't say these words, but this is very true, is people look at me in the position I'm in now, and nobody would believe that I've walked that journey.
Totally.
And I think that teaches us a lot, because we put these ideas, and we look at people, we go, oh, well, they're so successful, or they're so sharing, or they're so open. They must have always been this way. And no, I was a very insecure, critical, judgmental, unhealthy young woman, and trying to figure it out. And it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of self-love, which is ultimately what I needed to learn to get into a place to accept myself for who I was, to be able to share that, because all those were secrets. I didn't want anybody to know any of that, and so now in my day-to-day life, those are all that's how I make my living. Isn't that interesting? The secrets and the pain are what have allowed me to be the teacher and the guide and the supporter and the writer and the author and the speaker, because of that pain. And I think a lot of people too go, well, once you get through that, then you're clear. And that's not true. I get life experiences. I've had lots of suicide around me. The last 6 years of my life have been some of the hardest years of my life, harder than all of that other stuff. So it isn't that it just ends one day, but what it does is it expands us into a place of going, okay, if this is happening in my life, I know it's happening for a reason, and I'm going to turn it into something that is teaching for others, because I'm already going through it. So I might as well take some notes along the way and give people some tips when they do.
Yeah. And I really feel like we don't feel so alone out here when we're listening. The more connection we feel, the more people like you are able to speak about their story and help others. Just knowing that you're out there doing that, I felt more connected. I felt not so alone, and I really love that. When did you first know that you were going to be a medium?
I knew that I was having experiences at 13. Well, because that was what I pushed against for so many years. So at 13 is when I had my first experience, and I had them on and off for many years. But I kept, I don't want to do this. 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 And the reason I didn't want to do it was because it was painful emotionally. it was very hard for me. And so that was one of the things that I kept saying, I don't want to do. 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 And I kept doing it and kept doing it. And so finally, the spirit was like, listen, hello, like, you're doing this. You want to go the easy way or you want to go the hard way? You want me to give you something to cry about? Or so basically I just kind of surrendered to it and realized that, and really this was kind of, I can be willful at times and have an idea of what I think is the easier way. And I've often looked for easier, yet I've never found it. Like, I didn't choose easy. I didn't sign up for easy. And so Spirit just said to me one day, and we were having this conversation, because this is what we do. We were having this conversation within myself, and Spirit said, what right do you have to hold this information from people that in 5 minutes could have a healing that could change their life?
Wow.
And I was like,
yeah.
Well, if you put it that way. So basically it evolved for me into a place of going, okay, I know that this can be of service. And instead of saying, no, I don't want to do this, maybe I just need to find some tools and some ways that I can minimize my discomfort. And so it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. And over the last 20 years, that's been my journey. So I'm grateful for it now. And I'm appreciative, and I have found those tools, but man, that was a hard one to overcome.
Gotcha. What part of what you do now, and I know you do a lot, so this might be a difficult question, what part of what you do now do you just love? What's the part that you're like, and I know there are probably a lot of them, but that you really get jazzed about? Is it we're in this online world now, which 6 years ago was much different than it is now. And you love writing, you've got the videos, your personality, you produce. Just out of curiosity, for such a Renaissance woman, just curious,
Well, my team would tell you that that's the problem, is that I love all of it. And so because I love all of it, I want to do everything all the time. And they would also tell you that because I'm an Aries, and I always have a lot of ideas, they all call me fire pants, because I always am acting like I have my pants on fire. We got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do that. So the problem for me, and this really is, and it can be a challenge, is I do want to do it all. And I choose to. And so there are, like, I even like bookkeeping. And yes, I have someone that can do that. Yes, I have someone that can create this and that and the other, but I like it all. Yeah. So there's very, very little teeny parts of any part of my business that I actually don't like. What my favorite, most passionate piece is teaching. And whether that's one-on-one in front of someone, whether that's speaking to an audience of 10,000, or whether that is a group of 12, doesn't matter to me. It's sharing and knowing that person has the tools, not that they're going to follow them, because I can only lead them to water, but that they have tools that could benefit them if they choose to use them.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things that the teaching that I get a lot from your website that I love is you do talk a lot about self-love. You talk about that unconditional love.
Yeah.
I think when we're telling our true story, when I help people with memoir, I help people with, manifestos or whatever they're writing, there comes a moment within the project where they do open up to loving themselves as a character almost in their own story. And when they get that little bit of an objective view, it really changes everything. When did you first, I'm assuming possibly since you teach this, there was a time where you didn't love you.
Sure.
Yeah. When did that change for you? When did you get the download for that one?
It was a journey also. And it was one that I went on intentionally. So, when I had my son, I was a teenager, and I realized that I wanted to love him unconditionally, but I knew that I didn't have that within me.
Mm.
And so I knew that I didn't know what that even meant or how to do it. And so for 10 years, the first 10 years of his life, I tried just putting it to him. I'm going to love him unconditionally. When my other son came along, I'm going to love him unconditionally. And what I realized I missed is that I can't give what I don't have. And so what ended up through a lot of learning, and my older son was the greatest teacher, was you have to love yourself before you can love him unconditionally. Before I could love my kids unconditionally, I needed to get into that love for myself. So then I went on the journey of who is Sunny and what does Sunny want and what does Sunny, because I was a mom as a kid, and so I didn't have that time. And so it was a journey of discovering what unconditional love looked like and felt like for me, so that then I could offer it to my family or my friends or what have you. And it was difficult. It was a long process. It was a difficult process. It was a painful process, and it was the most important thing I've ever done.
Awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
like how you wrap in joy and pain. You
Mm-hmm.
you have a way of, and I love that. I think that's the darkness and the gift, or
Yeah.
intertwined.
The extremes, we live, we're not in a little bubble that just keeps everything in that perfect balanced place. For sure, I'm not anyway. And so we have extremes in our life, and sometimes it sucks and sometimes it's fantastic, and sometimes those same moments happen in this very same hour, and in my world anyway, I want to feel it all, and to the depths of the pain, to the opposite heights of joy. And I don't want to miss I don't want to miss a piece of it. So I will live in this over here to know that this over here exists.
Yes, that's fantastic. So what about judgment? Some people are out there when they're trying to do, they're being themselves. And one of the biggest hurdles I find that people need to not need to get over, but it hits them in the face sometimes when they're not looking, is being judged by being authentic, which I know that those of us that are kind of have done it so much that we see the benefit, so we don't really go there. Baby steps. Would there be baby steps for getting over that initial exposure, that initial judgment, to people who really want to share their story but are still just a little bit hesitant?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is just plan on being judged.
Yeah.
Plan on it. Know that it is going to happen. And the reality of it is, the more, I think oftentimes the more impactful your message is, the more judgment you may even have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really to help us discern where we're going to place our value. I just had a client yesterday that I was working with, a gal that I'm mentoring, and she had she'd sent out a message about how she's going to kind of scale back her business. And in doing that, she had, let's just say, 20 of her clients that were like, oh my God, that's so great. I'm going to miss you, but I'm really proud of you for making that choice. She had 3 that were like, are you kidding? You're letting me down. And I really need you, and blah, blah. And where did she choose to focus? We can listen. There's always going to be cheerleaders on either side, cheering for themselves or cheering for you. Where do you put your attention? So if you just plan on it, and if you just know, then I think it helps you get a thicker skin around that, and expect it. Okay, you know what? Not everybody's gonna love me. Not everybody's gonna think I'm great. Not everybody's gonna like my story. Some people are gonna think I'm full of shit. Some people are gonna think that this isn't even possible. And in my world, that happens all the time. And I've had to get very comfortable with people not even believing what it is that I do or say. And I'm at a place in my life, and I went through some of those challenges, but I'm at a place in my life, and I have been really for the last 15 years, where I honor wherever anyone is. I'm not here to actually impress them, so they don't sway me one bit or the other. I did a TV show a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think, and it was on LMN, and I had some harsh critics that, and they weren't critical actually of my work. They were critical of me, like, oh my God, she's blonde haired, she had these fingernails, and and red lipstick or whatever. Not red because I don't wear red, but whatever. I mean, they're just criticizing me as a person, the way that I looked or the way that I talked. And then of course they threw some things in about what I did. And when I read it, I was so proud of me and who I am today, because the girl that was the insecure girl that didn't love herself would have probably killed herself.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it was so harsh. And instead, what I was like was, that's funny that that's what they would focus on.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I kind of giggled a little bit, and I thought, out of all the things that you could choose to focus on, that's what they choose. And good for them. They have that right. It doesn't change who I am.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting about that is I read a study that they will, society at large will criticize a woman's appearance as a way to really stab her, regardless of the platform or the industry or the format. But they don't tend to do that to men. I don't know. I'm just throwing that in there because I just read it. And so having heard that, I'm like, wow, if there's that little girl, because that's all we did when we were little, right? We were worried about our hair, our makeup, and our nails. I mean, seriously. And what I'm hearing that I really want to get across to people, and then we're at time, is the inspiration and the people that we can inspire. We may never meet, we may never know, and that ripple effect is huge. And being able to push through the fire, you know, to really get through the darkness that you've done as inspiration to us. Also, what you've done is you've built that, what you said, a thick skin. But that's a thick skin for the bad guy and a big open heart. I mean, a big open heart for everybody, but, you know, we put the bad guy over there for a little bit. And also that you don't really see, like, we'll get a little bit of negative feedback, and then we'll forget all this over here. Yeah. So what I love is I know how many fans you have, and I know the work you're doing. And, you know, I did my homework, and it's just so amazing. Like, it lifted me up at a time where I was feeling overwhelmed and sad and weird. And then boom, of course that I needed to do homework on Sunny Dawn Johnston. And so I just want to say to everybody that true story, that authenticity that you are an example of, that everyone can have that in their lives just by embracing that little bit of vulnerability, piece by piece, step by step, as you go.
And it's a choice, guys. It's a choice. So you can choose to stay safe and not share. But the reality of it is that's not what connects people. Our hearts are what connects us, not our heads. It's our hearts. Absolutely. And the heart is what we feel with. And so when we share and we express and we emote, that's what creates the energetic connection that makes me interested in whatever it is you're doing. So if you're a writer, a speaker, a teacher, a counselor, or a person, and you want to inspire or help or support other people, then the only thing you got to do is open, and your heart can be open, and you can still be aware that some people are going to have their judgments, and that's okay. Actually, just expect it. You know what? There's going to be some haters in the world, and you know what? Bring them on, because the sooner they get up, the less I have to deal with them.
That was another point someone made, and you made it even better. A friend of mine said, well, wouldn't telling your authentic story, if you get haters, weed out the people you don't want to work with?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for helping me gain some clarity so that I'm aware of who I don't want to work with, or what I don't want to put my attention on. And again, honoring and allowing them to have the right to their own opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sunny, it was just a pleasure. You've offered so much to this summit. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's my honor, and I'm so grateful that you all are out there and that you're sharing your messages and you're shining your light. We need us all. And so keep it up. Keep going. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. You have a wonderful day.
Yeah, sure will. You too, honey.
Okay, bye.